Erasing all the numbers from your D6s and replacing them with pluses and minuses. It's Red Dice Diaries, back with a player's tips on how to make your character actions sound more exciting. So first of all, I'm going to start with something that I call passive voice and active voice. Well, what do I mean by that? Well, passive voice is when you describe your player character as though you were talking about someone else doing something. For example, my character climbs the wall. My barbarian warrior swings his axe and shouts at the soldiers. My priest casts the second level spell Repel Evil Spirit with a material component. Now, technically, those descriptions in passive voice convey the information that you need to get across to your fellow players and to your DM. It's a fairly minimal approach though, sounding very boring and a little bit lackluster. Compare this with active voice, which is when you put yourself in your PC's shoes and describe the actions as though you were the one doing them. For instance, I grab hold of the stout rope and climb the wall. Swinging my axe, I scream a war cry at the soldiers and charge. I swing my holy censer and begin to speak the words of banishment, warding off the evil spirit. This is already sounding much better, but there are still ways to improve it. My next tip would be, think about how your character does things as well as what they are doing. It's far more interesting and engaging to describe how your character is doing something rather than simply stating what they are doing. You're trying to create a picture in the minds of your fellow RPGers. After all, you want them to believe in what you're doing and to sell for the actions that you're undertaking. Some examples are, I grab hold of the stout rope and nimbly leap over the large wall. Swinging my blood-drenched axe, I scream a war cry at the soldiers and ferociously charge towards them. I swing my holy censer and solemnly intone the words of a prayer of banishment, repelling the evil spirit. These examples again sound much better, but we can still add a little bit more to them. My next piece of advice would be to speak as your character does. Now, I don't mean you have to put on an accent or you have to affect vocal mannerisms of your character, although if you can do that, great, but you don't have to. What I mean by speaking as your character would is that when your character is speaking, verbalize what they are saying rather than simply just stating my character says this or the wizard says that. So in our examples we might say, I grab hold of the rope and nimbly leap the wall, pausing to look back at my fellows and shout, come on, follow me. Swinging my bloody axe, I ferociously charge the soldiers, screaming, death to the tyrant emperor. Producing my holy censer, I solemnly say, in the name of the gods of light and all that is good, I cast the evil from this room. Begone, foul spirits of darkness and corruption. You will find no succour in this place. Again, better, and you can reinforce that as I was doing then with facial expressions to show the emotions of your character. These will really reinforce your dialogue and just give it that extra bit of impact. My next piece of advice is know when to be descriptive and when not to be so descriptive. Now this may seem a little bit odd and counterintuitive given that the rest of this video is urging you to be more descriptive. However, there are times when you don't need to lay the description on quite so thickly, and in fact doing so can even hold up the game or, in a worst case scenario, irritate your fellow players. Generally, if your character is performing an action that is not important or is very quick, lighting a lamp for instance, then unless some drama is involved, for instance you're trying to light a lamp quickly as something approaches you looming out of the darkness and you've no way of seeing it what it is, or you're trying to light a lamp to signal the invading fleet that the actual strike you're going on is a trap and that they should pull back before it's too late. Unless it's something that has drama in, you don't need to be so descriptive. Simply saying something like, I light my lamp with my flint and steel will more than suffice. Knowing when to be descriptive and when to be less so is a skill that you will pick up with practice. But in general, if you're describing an action in detail would slow the game down or would not result in a more dramatic emphasis on the moment that's occurring, then you can afford to be a little bit lighter on the description. However, always try and talk as though you are your character. Even something as small as this can have a dramatic impact on how immersed yourself and thus your fellow gamers can become in a session. And finally, try actually using actions. A good way to get across descriptions without being overly wordy or to reinforce a description is to actually act out some of the actions that your character is performing, within reason, obviously. If your character is pacing nervously, for instance, get up and pace around. Wring your hands together and glance over your shoulder as though you're expecting someone to come up on you at any minute. If you're making a rousing speech, then punch the air to punctuate your sentences and to emphasize the words that you're saying to your troops. When you're attacking, make stabbing motions or slashing motions with your hands to show how you are attacking. Obviously, you should be aware of the limitations of space when it comes to carrying out actions and other players' comfort zones, but throwing in a few actions, even if in the example of blowing out a candle you simply say, "I blow out a candle," just doing something like that adds a little more emphasis to it without adding a considerably larger amount of words and holding up the game, and it instantly gives people an idea of what you're doing and can help people invest and immerse themselves in the game. But you might be saying, what if I'm playing a online hangout game where you only get to see a little bit of the person in question? Well, online hangout games only tend to show the upper half of each participant, rather like you can see in this video at the moment. However, just because you really cannot pace about or anything like that, you can still gesture with your hands, as I've been doing in this video, and facial expressions and emotions can convey almost as much, if not more, than actions themselves. So, there you have it, a few tips for helping you make your character actions sound more exciting. I'm sure there are many more tips out there. If you have any further suggestions, please put them in the comments box down below or hit me up in the Google Plus links. I'd love to hear what you think, and I hope if you've enjoyed this video you'll click on like and subscribe to my channel. We put out new videos every week. Until I see you in the next video, take care, and I look forward to reading what you've written. Thanks very much for listening.